Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. What I have for you today is a bit of a bonus video, and what a video it is, as I'm going through all my remaining chips, and there is a lot of them, and when I'm going to use them. Also going to be discussing the strengths and weaknesses of my plan, as well as discussing when you could use each chip from a more general point of view to get the most out of it for your own team. I've only used my triple captain and my first wildcard so far, so hopefully this video has some good advice for everyone watching. Some of the plans are pretty much set in stone, some are kind of my best guess, as specific double and blank game weeks are still to be decided, but at least it'll hopefully help you order your own thoughts for the remaining game weeks of the season. If it does, and you haven't already, please do subscribe. It honestly is really appreciated. And we've actually had about 10 new subscribers in the last week alone, which really does make a massive difference to the channel. So we really are grateful for all the support. So let's start with blank game week 29, where despite still owning my free hit, I'm 100% going to ride it out and save the chip for a double game week. Let's take a look at how my current team lines up in game week 29. And the main thinking behind just riding it out is that I can actually already get 10 players on the pitch in that game week. With blank game weeks, there's obviously a smaller group of players to pick from, so it really is about the quality within your team rather than just getting any 11 players in order for them to play. Using the free hit in a double really does maximise its potential. Using it in game week 29 could easily see the majority of the players I get in earn 1 or 2 points. Now, admittedly, the quality is lacking in defence, but I should have 4 free transfers by this point and 1.5 million in the bank. So an easy upgrade from someone like Face to 8 Nuri solves that problem. As is the case with any discussion, there's another side to it, and the downside of riding out game week 29 is it uses free transfers. If I played the free hit, I'd save those moves and be able to access all the funds that would be currently tied up in Salah and Isak. When I don't use the free hit, they're just kind of sat on the bench and I can't access that budget to upgrade the players that could be playing in that game week. So whether I think you should use a free hit, really, as always, it depends on your own situation. But the overall answer would be no, don't do it. The difference in points would be much greater playing it in a double or even a normal game week, where you can choose from all the players and teams rather than be limited in your selection. If you can get out 9 or 10 players, and there's some good quality in there, like I have with Cunha and Bruno and their fixtures, then you're going to be totally fine. Getting in a Savinho, a Gvardiol or a Foden from Man City is also good, but chances are you'll want them for the rest of the season anyway, so it makes sense to use a free transfer on them rather than use your free hit chip. So straight after game week 29 in game week 30, I will be 99.999% likely to bench boost. Now, what makes me so certain? Well, it's a mixture of it looking good for my current team and just getting it out of the way. I genuinely think it's the most overrated chip in FPL. Now, with everything in this video, it's dependent on your own team, but hopefully you can apply the logic I'm going to use now into your own situations. So picture this team with 8 Nori in it, who plays West Ham at home instead of Face, and I'll also upgrade Fabianski to probably someone like Kepa, who plays Ipswich at home, and it's pretty much set. Now, I'm never a fan of using any keeper transfer, let alone for a backup one, but nevertheless, a benefit of playing the bench boost here is being able to wildcard soon after, and it therefore saves me having to use any more free transfers to get these players out again. Otherwise, it would really start to lose its value. So using transfers is a potential downside, but that would surely apply to whenever you use the bench boost. There is the scope to wildcard before and then use the bench boost straight afterwards, and then use free transfers to downsize my bench. But because my team is pretty much there in terms of its lineup, there's no point using the wildcard first. In terms of when you should use it, I think basically whenever you set your bench and you look at it and you think, oh, I'd be quite happy to start them, or you've got some difficult bench decisions, then just play it and don't overthink it. You can plan and prepare for ages for something like a bench boost and still end up with only 6 points from it. Plus, you'd take value out of your starting 11 to boost up your bench in the meantime, and that could cost you potential points in the process. And if you're using free transfers to get the right players on your bench, then you're maybe not upgrading and making the right transfers in the rest of your team, which could really impact your points as well. So in terms of Game Week 31, I'll be using my wildcard, and I do have the team I'm thinking of bringing in to show you here. Now, there can still be changes as we don't know who'll be blanking or doubling in the last few weeks of the season, but by Game Week 31, we're more likely to know. So the team itself sees some fairly familiar names. There's no Cole Palmer in this, but there is Saka, who's timelined to be back playing by then, and you can bet he'll be pretty motivated to make the most of the rest of the season. There's also Foden and Savinho. Now, I did consider Haaland, like I really considered it. I even tried to get him into this team. But up front, Palace and Newcastle both have doubles, and Cunha has some great fixtures, so there's not really an open space for Haaland in the squad. I think recreating him and his points with two City players is a fair compromise. I am feeling good about City's running, and I'd almost go as far as saying they are the team to get in for the last few game weeks, and you do need someone from that squad. They'll likely blank, but they'll also double if that's the case, and if they don't blank, then they'll have a fixture every game week for the rest of the year. You may also notice that Kelleher is on the bench from Liverpool. If Liverpool are still going in the Champions League and are still on to win the Prem, and they've got a big distance between them and the rest of the teams, then rotation in the league is a possibility. I'm unlikely to want, 3 outfield Liverpool players from now on. So I thought he's a good backup. Maybe I start him with the good fixtures, and then if he doesn't play, I'll just have Raya's points coming off the bench. So the benefit for me personally to wildcard after so soon after bench boosting is it allows me to streamline my bench immediately with no free transfers and focus all the funds into the starting 11. So looking at it, this bench is maybe too deep still, but by game week 31, it's still a while away. I'm sure there'll be players you're looking at here who won't be available by the time it comes around. Playing the wildcard at this point also allows me to take advantage of actually having enough games in the season left. I still have the assistant manager chip to play, and if I use that first, it'd be game week 34 by the earliest before I could wildcard, by which point some of the blanks and doubles may have passed me by. The negatives of me playing the wildcard here include that there's still a chance that I may not know all the fixtures remaining. It depends on who gets through in the FA Cup and whether the Premier League decides to fill them in game week 33 or game week 36. So of course, if this is the case, then I could just leave it for an extra week and then use it when they're announced, but then that could also push back things like the assistant manager chip and the free hit chip, which I would still have to use. So in terms of when you should wildcard, as always, it depends on your own team's fixtures, but I do think around game week 31 or 32 is the best in order to get the most out of it. Remember, it's a wildcard, not a glorified free hit chip, so the more you want it more than 1 or 2 game weeks of the season in order to get the most from it. So even after all of this, I've still got my assistant manager and free hit chip still to play. Now, the ideal time to play it is in game week 32 when there's the chance that Newcastle has back-to-back double game weeks. But as you can see from the squad before, I plan on having triple Newcastle already with Isak, Hall and Murphy. It's worth saying that Murphy actually has more attacking returns than Gordon this season so far, and is about 2 million cheaper, just if you're interested in Newcastle assets. And Eddie Howe, therefore, isn't an option for me. He might be for you, and that's okay. Absolutely attack those double game weeks with your assistant manager chip. But I am a big believer in not getting a manager in from a team that you'd also want 3 players from, because that just reduces your options for having good fixtures and you can maximise the manager chip elsewhere. I'm also a huge fan of the potential table bonus and risking it all on that. So who am I considering for my team if that's the case? Well, Glasner is a great option. We already know he doubles in game week 32. I know it's not the best double, but Palace are great away from home. They then play Bournemouth at home, who, as it stands, would also have table bonus against them, and then it's Arsenal. So that would be 4 potential table bonus games in a row. Glasner has already earned 20 points in 2 separate occasions so far this season. It's risky, but it is there, it's potential. So who's the next best option for me, I hear you ask? Well, it's only David Moyes. he's back again for another crack at 3 table bonus games. Now, when I was looking at options, there weren't many teams with table bonus playing at home, which is the dream, to get those lower ranked teams with a home game, because it's, when you're playing at home, you're just more likely to get a positive result than away. So I've had to go for managers with more away games. Now, if I'm going to take advantage of the double, or if I'm not going to take advantage of the double, I could leave it for a little bit longer, maybe save it for the final 3 game weeks of the season where there's usually plenty of upsets. But if I'm going to stick to this plan, this is where I would play it, and these are the managers that I would play it on in my team. So that just leaves the free hit, and it's really too early to put a team together given that we don't yet have the fixture confirmation, but it's likely that I'll use it in a double where the assistant manager chip isn't active, or maybe even leave it to game week 38 where rotation and high upside fixtures could be big. There's always loads of goals in the final game week of the season. I'm unlikely to use it in a blank for the same reasons that I discussed earlier. So that's the plan. Feel free to write in the comments your own strategy or any comments you might have on my strategy. Hopefully it's helped you with your thoughts in the game week and the general advice. If you have made it this far, a like and subscribe would be very much appreciated. Keep an eye out for my Game Week 28 Wildcard Team video and my Game Week 28 preview coming out this week. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.